Learning to set up cars in Forza is difficult, although there's a super guide on this channel. But today I want to find a solution for everybody who doesn't want to fiddle with the sliders and learn how to do it on their own, only to bin it in T1 anyhow. No, today we have a look at Forza Tune, an app that promises to get fast setups for every car on every track in Forza Motorsport. And that without you having to test anything in advance. Hey guys, welcome back to Overtake. My name is Champion Joe and today we have a look at Forza Tune, an app for iOS and Android, and this is not a sponsored video. I was just curious whether this app could be the answer for everybody out there asking themselves how to set up cars in Forza without any effort. The app comes in two variants, as you can see. There's a free version and a paid version for $5 or €5 something, so relatively cheap. The difference between the two versions aren't that significant either. You get the intelligent gearing calculator and some aerodynamic suggestions on top, so not the biggest, most important feature of all time, so you can definitely check this app out for free and upgrades later on if you really like it. But let's choose a car in Forza and tune it, shall we? Alright guys, we are in a training session on Laguna Seca, and the car we want to tune is the 2020 Lamborghini Essentia, because it's the car with the highest power level of all Forza GT cars, so maybe a car some of you guys would want to have a look at. In its driving characteristics, it's not a super hard car to handle by any means, but Laguna Seca is not the fastest track of all time. It has many flowing corners where you need a lot of mechanical grip, so setting up your springs, your anti-roll bar, and also the aerodynamics to a certain degree is essential to get understeer out of the car, oversteer out of the car, and just make the car rotate through turns like this one better than we are doing right now. And before we actually jump into the Forza Tune app itself, we'll start at this screen again where we choose a car, because we can see some information about the car only on this screen, and you need to press see details in the bottom. I know you can't see right now because my face cam is in front of it, but it's R on the keyboard, see details. You will see it if you're in this screen. It will pop up this overview of the stats of the car, and what we need is basically this screen right here. Here you can see the weight of the car and the weight distribution from the front to the rear, which is quite important to set up Forza Tune. But let's jump into Forza Tune and see what we can do there. Alright, I have it on my second screen right now using an app, so I can use it at my desktop. Maybe something you should have a look at, because it's quite handy to have it actually not on your phone but on the PC as well. But anyhow, we press on New Tune and get this menu right here where we can select our vehicle, and it's easiest as typing Lambo in there, Lamborghini, and then maybe Essenza. Yeah, there it is, a Lamborghini Essenza. We select that. Next up, we need to type in the weight. And as I noted before, with this screen, you can see the weight is 1,447 kilograms. Back to the app. So it's a back and forth at the moment. 1,447 kilos. Perfect. Then we need the front weight distribution, because if we know the front, we know the rear as well. It's 41%, as you can see on the screen. So 41. And from there, we need the performance index. This is this number right here. This is the performance index, the number we need. So 923 performance index. We know that the Lamborghini is a rear-wheel drive, but if you're unsure, you can go back to the game and have a look at the graphics here. It says rear-wheel drive mid-engine, but that's not really important. We only need the information if it's front-wheel drive, all-wheel drive, or rear-wheel drive. All right, rear-wheel drive. We play Forza Motorsport. You could also choose different Forza titles here, like Forza Motorsport 6 or 7, or even the Horizon series. So if you're an Horizon player, this app also might be something for you. All right, next we can even choose a track, which is kind of nice. And our track is Laguna Seca. There it is, Laguna Seca. We could also choose the short variant, but we're not doing that right now. We're on the full layout. With the Pro version, you can choose between drift, Rain race, track race. Rain race could be something for online racing that's super beneficial. So having some extra data on how to tune a car for rainy races sounds awesome to me, but for now it's a dry race that we're setting up for. Then we can choose to include gear tuning, that's also pro setting. We'll do just that because it's fun to also have the gears on their perfect setting basically. Then we press continue and jump into the actual tuning. Alright, for the next step we actually have to go back into the game. There we are. Start racing and immediately hammer the brake. There we are. Hammer the brake, get in first gear and then drive to at least a small straightaway. This one should be more than enough. And then we need the RPM, so how high the engine revs in first gear and the maximum speed in first gear. What we can use is actually the telemetry tool. Just use the extra buttons, which are the D-pad on the gamepad, or you could map it to any buttons on your steering wheel. As you can see here, we have the speed in kilometers per hour and also the RPM. And if we accelerate without shifting, 130, 129, 7.4. Again, next straightaway, just to make sure. 128. 128. And the RPM were 7,400, roughly. Doesn't have to be perfect, but rough estimates are more than enough. Next, we need the current final drive ratio and the current first gear ratio, which means we now have to move on to the car's tuning menu. So we select car and then tune car in the game to get to the tuning menu. Head to the gearing and here you can see all the different gears, and what the game needs is the current final drive ratio and the first gear ratio. So the final drive ratio is 3.04. 3.04, you don't even have to put in the dot, it makes that on its own. And the first gear ratio is 2.85. So 285. That's it. Number of gears is 6. And then we need the simulated top speed. You can see that right here. It's 345 kilometers an hour. 345. You see, it's a lot of jumping between the game and the app. So having it on your phone can be a good thing, but having it on a second screen is quite cool as well. If you're unsure how to do all of this, I mean, you just watch this video, but you can find some instructions here which values you have to put into the calculator. And from there, we just press calculate in the bottom right, and we get a perfectly set up car for Forza. You can see the pressures you should put in. You can put in the gearing, the camber, the toe, the caster, roll bar, springs, ride height, and everything else. Just go from top to bottom and copy and paste all the settings into your game. I will do that right now, and then we'll meet on the other side, because we're not done yet. Alright, as you've seen, there wasn't a lot of thinking in that part. All you really need to do is to copy and paste the settings into your game, press save, and then you can resume and hopefully get a better driving experience out of it. But as I said, we are not done yet, because now starts the fine tuning phase. So what you will need to do from here is just do a couple of laps, do some driving, see where the car is still struggling. For example, there was some understeer on exit there. Here as well. Some oversteer on power. Oh, and mid-corner understeer. Maybe I'm just not warmed up enough. But if you notice some characteristics in the different phases of cornering, so like under or oversteer on turn-in the middle of the corner and on exit, you can note that down in your brain, press pause again, and then we move back to the app, and you can press this button down here, which will bring up this menu where you can change the overall balance of the car, the turn-in entry balance, the turn-exit balance, the ride stiffness and the roll stiffness. So what that means is you can actually change the subtle characteristics of the car and get the according tuning information for it, so you can just copy it down again. So there is some thinking required at this point, but only to fine-tune the setup to your liking, because every driver is a bit different. Everyone wants something different out of the car, but this is kind of like talking to a real-life engineer who will then set up the car for you, which is kind of cool. So let's say we want the car to be a bit more oversteery. What they recommend is only going between 80 and 120. So moving in increments of 5% might be the right call here. So we want the car to be a bit more oversteery overall, but we want more understeer on exit. So let's go 5% lower here. The turn entry balance was alright, I would say. And then the ride stiffness could be a bit firmer and the roll stiffness a bit softer, so we have less understeer mid-corner. If you're happy with your changes, press done, and then you can see again all the changes that were made. And the cool thing is they will have this little wrench icon next to the settings you will need to adjust after your fine-tuning settings. And that's basically all there is to. I think a really interesting app to get fast setups for your cars in Forza, and perfect to have open on your phone or on a second screen when you're joining an online race and still have 20 minutes left to set up your car quickly. Is that something you would check out? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you want to learn how to set up your car the real way, the hard way, the engineer way, then you can check out my full guide on it attached right now on the screen. But that's it from me today. Thank you so much for tuning in and see you next time around. Cheers!